We started in 2010 a small organisation called Bespoke Lifestyles, and we basically decided rather than try to restructure an existing organisation, we just started from scratch, and it was basically a paradigm shift in how service was delivered. So we don't offer any services, we don't employ workers, so basically it's pure self-management, self-direction. So we talk about self-direction as being people being in control of what happens in their lives, and then the other level is self-management, where people are actually doing the day-to-day work. So all of the people who are with Bespoke Lifestyles they're all self-directing, and they're all self-managing. So some of them outsource some of that management, but then that's their choice as to who they outsource to. They don't outsource it to us. So in Queensland, the government has actually made provision that people can get direct payments for support. It can either go through directly to families or through an organisation called a host organisation, and we've become a host organisation, and we receive money from government, and then it goes through us and then direct to families or to individuals to be able to manage their support. We were doing it before this initiative came in, but so that people could be directly in control of their own funds. And we started very small, and we're still very small. So we don't get any government funding. We've set up as a company structure, and the way we manage to pay our consultants is through a small percentage that comes off the people's funding package. So we all are basically contractors to Bespoke Lifestyles, I suppose. But we're self-employed people, so we're not employed for the company. But we are engaged by the company to work with families. So our role is to support people to self-manage, set them up, help them to do planning, help them with their budgets, and then be a port of call when they need support with, if they're having any issues of how to employ their own staff, because everybody engages and employs their own staff, and money goes through us into their accounts on a monthly basis, sometimes a quarterly basis. They provide the support, they employ their workers, and then they account back to us on a quarterly basis. It's basically like a simple profit and loss statement as how money has been spent, and then we report back to government. So that's how the mechanism works, and so we don't need a big staff to do that. We also talk about gently challenging people to think outside the square as to how their supports are engaged, and most of the people now are really working right outside of services, so that they're not, some of them are using their funds to buy supports through services, but most of them aren't. They're actually getting their workers direct, and all the supports and everything that happens is they're in control of it all. And it's about gradually moving people, because it's a really big shift for some people, especially if they've been in congregated, supported services for a long time. To do this right outside of service is very, very different for them. But the changes are quite dramatic in a very short period of time that we've discovered. One that was quite profound, it's just happened just recently, and the change happened within a couple of months. And it was a sister supporting her sister and her mother's ageing, so it was like the succession plan. And they had been through a traditional service, and the sister was living next door, and she was managing with the service, I suppose. And there was a lot of behavioural issues with her sister. She was giving a lot of the support herself too, because the money didn't stretch far enough. And so they came to us, and we started talking about some of the possibilities of what her sister's life might be like now, including, workers being able to take her sister to the parents for a dinner, which had been not allowed under service bureaucratic conditions, I suppose, about not mixing personal and work. And I rang her just recently and said, how's it all going? And she said she just couldn't speak highly enough of the changes. And in fact, what was remarkable about this is that many of them were the same staff that came over, and instead of working for the organisation, were now working directly for her. So the change was really quite interesting, because it wasn't that they'd changed all the staff, but that the conditions in which the staff were working had changed, and the parameters around what they were required to do had changed. And the sister was being given more choices in her daily life, and so a lot of the restrictions had stopped. And so the behaviours that the sister had been exhibiting had just almost disappeared within 2 months, was just amazing. And the sister was just the one who, who's been managing it, was her input had actually lessened, even though she was now completely self-managing, because she was getting the staff on board, they were collaborating, they were agreeing, and life was much, much easier, even though she'd actually taken on a whole lot more work. And we've been doing this now since 2009. We've been managing his funds, and the changes in him, so from a personal perspective, I can talk about just dramatic, absolutely dramatic. And like, he's profoundly deaf, and in the past we often didn't have people who could communicate with him because they couldn't sign. So one of our stipulations in workers is that they can sign. We don't ask for any other qualifications. That's the other big thing. In our organisation, a lot of people are having people as staff and workers who have never done this work before, but they've got the right attitude, the right values and the right match with the person. And so similarly with my son, the match needed to be that people could communicate. And now that we've made that, we've got deaf people on board with him, and people have stayed with him for long periods of time. They don't move on. We have a really collaborative team. Everybody gets on. We have regular meetings. Basically, I'm the employer, and the changes in him have been phenomenal. He's actually been able to move into his own place. His communication's improved. He's actually continent, and that's part of, I think, him feeling before that was the only thing he had control over. Now he doesn't need that level of control because he has it given to him anyway, and I could just probably talk for an hour on the changes in his life, but also our lives, because we now actually feel, although I'm managing it all, we have more freedom because we trust that things are going well. And my daughter, who's is 2 years younger than him, has come on board to help with it as well. So we've just been away for 5 weeks and everything went really well, and had no concerns, whereas I probably would have been concerned if we weren't in control of it all. So yeah, it's been a dramatic change on a personal level as well as a work level for us.